With the subcompact crossover segment dominating the US market, Volkswagen decided to no longer give us a Golf all-track, or a sport wagon. In fact, small cars and small hatches, aside from the GTI and Golf R, are done. And instead, Volkswagen decided to give us a small subcompact crossover that really isn't that much small for the interior. Americans want practicality, they want space, and they also want a vehicle that's not going to break the bank. And the Volkswagen Taos provides that, and then some. Today we'll be taking a look at the SE 4Motion, the mid-tier trim, possibly the better trim in the lineup, where I don't think you need to go with the SE Black or SE L. Now, unfortunately, I'm sitting next to this Taos because my Volkswagen Tiguan needs a new turbo. So I'm gonna make lemons out of lemonade and check out my probably long-term loaner with this Taos. So if you're ready, then I'm ready. Let's dive right into this video. So as always, let's begin with that pricing. With this model being an SE, you're looking at a starting cost of just under $30,000. Although with 4Motion all-wheel drive and taxes and fees included, you're spending right around $32,500. And that right there is why I'd stop you with the SE, and you don't need to go with the SE Black or SEL, because at around $34,000 or $35,000, you could end up with a compact crossover that gives you the practicality you demand. Now, you might be sacrificing some creature comforts here and there, but a compact crossover would probably go much further. Although, if you are adamant about a subcompact crossover like the Taos, you're going to love the fact that for a small vehicle like this, there's a lot of interior space that makes us family friendly and very, very versatile. So when we take a look at the design of the Taos, it's actually one of the better looking crossovers in this class, if I'm going to be objective here. So up front, you are going to receive LED headlights and LED daytime running lights for better visibility at night or in adverse weather conditions. Also, it helps modernize the exterior appearance for this vehicle. Now, interestingly enough, when you take a look at the center portion of the front fascia, this looks like it's supposed to be functional, and it's not. But I do like the fact that Volkswagen is giving you more of an EV look, even for their lower models in the lineup. Now, for the lower portion of the front bumper, here we have this aggressive grille here, and also color contrasting accents, giving us a two-tone look to the Taos SE. Also, functional side air curtains. That's actually pretty cool here for a vehicle in this market. Now, as you make your way over to the side profile, here we have some cladding. Obviously, you're not going to have a full paint finish for a crossover at around $30,000 or $32,000, but this is going to be useful if you are taking on snow-covered roadways or some light off-road duty. Now, with this model, you are going to have 18-inch alloy wheels in a two-tone finish. I think these wheels do a pretty good job making this vehicle not look too cheap or low rent, so I like the fact that we have a good wheel design here for this crossover. You are going to have body color match side mirror caps, but no turn signal indicators. I'm very surprised by that for an SE, but you are going to receive blind spot detection for added safety. Then, as you can tell, we have some chrome accents outlining the lower portion of the windows, and we also have roof rails as well, making this vehicle look somewhat capable here. Also, you like to have that if you are going to be maybe storing stuff up there on a longer drive. Then, as you make your way around to the back, here we have an LED light bar. I love this. I love what Volkswagen's doing here with their light designs, giving you more of a futuristic and modern appearance, even for a vehicle like this. Volkswagen loves their light bars, as you can tell. Now, for the lower portion of the rear bumper, here we have those cheap exhaust cutouts that are not functional. I don't know why brands do this still. You're going to have the cladding once again, and you have the contrasting accents for some continuity throughout the exterior of this vehicle. And as you can tell, the exhaust outlets are tucked beneath the bumper for that cleaner appearance. But as we wrap up the exterior though, for one, it does look like a last generation Tiguan. So in that way, it looks a bit more upscale than some of its rivals, but it still has some of this refrigerator look here with the body lines and very aggressive C-pillars, but it is what it is when you're spending around $32,000. And while we're taking a look at the rear fascia, might as well check out the cargo area for the Volkswagen Taos and why this right here might be a huge selling point. Now, before we open up the hatch, we have an illuminated emblem. Pretty nice. But instead of the money going to this, I would have preferred a power liftgate. Now inside, behind the second row seats, you're looking at right around 28 cubic feet of room. That's near the top in this market. It's only bested by the Nissan Kicks. Now this is a little bit better than a Honda HR-V, Toyota Corolla Cross, obviously the Mazda CX-30 and Subaru Crosstrek. In some ways, this is far from being a lifted hatchback or even a subcompact crossover. This is one of those vehicles that blurs the lines a bit, where it is almost on compact crossover territory when you take a look at the interior space. So if practicality is something that really is important to you, I would say take a look at the Taos. Now also back here on both sides of the cargo area, there will be some cubbies for some smaller items, maybe a couple water bottles, car detail equipment, or maybe even a first aid kit. Also beneath the floor mat, you are going to find a spare tire. So if you encounter a flat on those road trips or travels, you can fix that and be back on the road. Now, when you lower the second row seat, you're looking at right around 68 cubic feet, give or take, which again is near the top in this market. So again, practicality, interior space, that's where the Taos really shines through in this market. Then hopping inside the Volkswagen Taos SC, you're going to have a mixture of upholsteries here. The CloudTex and cloth seats. Now, the CloudTex is a synthetic leather, and you kind of feel that here. It's a bit cheaper, a little harder than what you are going to find out of leatherette seats from rivals. But I will say the cloth feels pretty premium. Now, in my opinion, these seats are a bit firm and stiff. They're not the most comfortable or supportive. But then again, I'm coming from a Volkswagen Tiguan with leather trim seats. So this automatically feels like a downgrade, but then again, there's about a $13,000 price difference. So there's that. Now, comparing this to other vehicles in its market and class, the one thing I am going to say, though, is that these seats do a pretty good job for longer road trips and for a weekday drive. So at least you're going to have some comfort here. It's just that, in my opinion, I feel like the seats are a bit stiff. Also on top of this, though, you are going to have heated front seats, and the driver's side will be power adjustable, so you can customize your comfort when you are behind the wheel of this crossover. And speaking of being behind the wheel, you are going to have physical buttons on the steering wheel, and better yet, it is heated. That is right, 3-level heated steering wheel. Very, very nice. Now, you're not going to have aggressive 10 and 2 or firm 9 and 3 grips. I'm not expecting that here out of a Taos SE. Now, in front of you will be a full digital gauge cluster. Pretty nice to see in this market. And by pressing down on the physical buttons on the steering wheel, you can adjust what you see in front of you. And also you can customize both sides of this digital gauge cluster to showcase a variety of information. So that's really nice. At least Volkswagen is moving away from haptic feedback buttons. Now, as we take a look at the infotainment system, it's a small screen here. I like that. I definitely like that. You can have wireless Apple CarPlay and Android Auto compatibility, no onboard navigation, and really no nice sound system to speak of here. But you are going to have touch-sensitive icons on both sides of the screen for your radio, media, phone, voice, app, sound, car, and menu, and physical dials for the volume and tuning. I do like that here. Even though some people are not going to like haptic feedback or touch-sensitive buttons, it works. It totally works here because this screen is well within arm's reach. And also, with this being an older MIB user interface, it's easy to use for sure. As you can tell, you have all these widgets in place for your radio, telephone, vehicle climate control, media, Apple CarPlay. It is all right here. And I will say that the resolution and responsiveness is pretty good, even for a vehicle in this market at around $30,000. Now, when you do place the Taos in reverse, you are going to receive a rear backup camera with trajectory with front and rear parking sensors. That is a nice touch here. So when you are parking on city streets or in a garage, you're not going to be hitting that car behind you, so that's really nice. Now, continuing on beneath the head unit, you're going to find all your climate control settings. For your dual zone climate control, your AC, front rear defrosters, fan speed, fan direction, and your 3-level heated seats. Yes, it is haptic feedback, but I'll tell you this, it's very easy to get adapted to, even with the climate control settings here, where you have to slide both left and right. I've actually gotten used to that, so I'm not going to complain about that today. Beneath that, you are going to find 2 USB-C inputs, a 12-volt outlet, and a wireless phone charging pad, so this vehicle is pretty well equipped. For the center console itself, here you have a traditional gear shifter here to go along with some buttons. So you have your electronic parking brake, your start-stop button, also your auto start-stop, and you will have some parking assist features as well. Then you have a dial here for your drive mode selector. So by pressing down on the mode button, here you have Eco, Normal, Sport, and Custom. But if you use this dial, now you have some off-road modes to work with. So you're going to have the ability to take on some snow, some dirt, maybe even some mud. I'd highly doubt you're taking this off-road though. That's just my take. Now you are going to have 2 cup holders to go along with a small storage compartment for, say, some loose change or maybe even a pen or two. And then you will have a center storage compartment to round out the front seating area where it is deep enough for a couple wallets, smartphones, or other tech gadgets. But pretty straightforward here with this vehicle. You're going to have hard touch plastics on the door panels, on the dashboard, even beneath the infotainment system. You have this interesting material. This is what you would expect here for a vehicle at this price point. Yes, unfortunately, vehicles are getting more expensive in the subcompact crossover market, but there's nothing that I'm seeing here that is a major shift from other vehicles in this class, from Toyota, from Honda, from Subaru. Then for passengers in the second row, there's a number of pluses here to this vehicle. For one, a higher roofline, so tall passengers will not be hitting their head on the headliner. You can accommodate a larger family here in the Taos. Plenty of shoulder room as well, where I do think you can try squeezing in a third person in the center. Again, another plus. But then we take a look at legroom. You have right around 38 inches of that legroom for the second row. That outclasses a lot of crossovers in this market, and once again brings me back to the fact that with the Taos, this is almost a compact crossover. Even though the exterior dimensions wouldn't say that, this is blurring the lines where if you're looking for a smaller vehicle that's still family friendly, that's what the Taos is most certainly going to impress. Now also back here, you will have 2 center mounted air vents. That's not always a given here in this market, and 1 USB-C outlet. And then to round out the second row seating area, you are going to receive a center armrest with 2 cup holders. The Volkswagen Taos is not known for its earth-shattering performance and eye-opening driving dynamics. In fact, I would probably steer you towards the Mazda CX-30 or Subaru Crosstrek, especially if you're looking for a vehicle that has the off-road capability at around $30,000. But I am a bit surprised here with the Taos from the standpoint that it's not a very slow vehicle per se. With this 1.5-liter turbocharged 4-cylinder engine, you're looking at right around 174 horsepower and 184 pound-feet of torque. It is paired with an 8-speed automatic transmission, and our model has the 4Motion all-wheel drive system for better year-end capability and versatility. Now, ground clearance-wise, though, it's not going to be the best in this class. Of course, go with the Subaru Crosstrek if you need better ground clearance and off-road capability. I will say, though, that this vehicle is somewhat compliant, especially when you are on the highway or even on a winding back road. Yeah, the steering isn't very stiff or decently weighted, but it does feel relatively planted and it does feel somewhat agile. Also, this engine is willing to please here, even though it's not the 2-liter turbo. So if you're looking for a smaller vehicle for city driving or even in the suburbs for winding back roads and you don't want to spend around $35,000, the Taos is going to deliver on that. Also, no CVT. Now, when we take a look at fuel economy numbers, though, you're looking at right around 25 miles per gallon in the city and 33 miles per gallon on the highway. Not too bad for a turbocharged 4-cylinder engine like this one. And I will say that during my time with this vehicle is really sipping on that gas. So as we enter the highway here, let's see what this 1.5 is capable and what it will offer us here. And I'm at highway speeds. See if we can pass some slower drivers here. See what the passing power and passing capability is like here. It's all right. It's all right. I mean, I had my foot to the floor. But a lot of crossovers in this market, whether naturally aspirated or turbo, aside from the Mazda CX-30, a lot of them are going to be slow and lethargic. In regards to road noise, you hear a lot of it. When you're comparing this to the new Volkswagen Tiguan, the interior insulation is far better out of the compact crossover, but then again, this is kind of like a refrigerator on wheels. I will say, though, that driving dynamics-wise, this is what you would expect here for a crossover at around $30,000. One observation I have made here with the Volkswagen Taos is that in sport mode, it does a pretty good job. You can live with this crossover in sport mode. I think that's a bit too slow, and the 8-speed isn't that great in normal and eco, where at least it comes to life in sport mode. But this is hardly a dynamic, or I don't want to say appealing, but it's not engaging. It is far from engaging. This is about as enticing as vanilla ice cream. But then again, a lot of crossovers in this class are going to give you the exact same experience. Now, with the SE and the fact you have a 4-motion all-wheel drive system coming in at $32,000, maybe I'm getting old here, but I just think that at $32,000, this is not enough. I think a base Tiguan S is better, but right now I am in no place to tell you to go with a Tiguan with that EA 888, the Gen 5, considering the issues I'm having with my SEL R-Line Turbo. But if you can find one that works, or if you're watching this in the future and Volkswagen has fixed the problem with their engines and their turbo, I would steer you towards the Tiguan S over the SE or any other trim that Volkswagen's offering here with the Taos. I mean, it is an economical crossover, right? Like, it's an econo box, so you kind of get what you pay for. It's just that at $32,000, I have experienced far better when it comes to the fit and finish and the interior materials. I mean, these seats are firm. They're not that plush. They're not that supportive. And I just think that when I'm looking at other vehicles in this class, there are far better. I will say, though, that when it comes to the suspension, though, it's not that bad. I mean, it is comfortable. It's not abusive. I think you guys are definitely going to like it as a daily driver. You go over the bumps and imperfections, and at least you're not going to be dealing with that and feeling that for the cabin. So there's a plus there. Also, with this 1.5, like I said before, it's willing to please. It is compliant. So there's that here with this vehicle. The main selling points, though, like we talked about earlier on in today's video, is that it's going to be the interior space, the practicality, and the fact that you are going to have some modern technology here. I will say here, though, that it's great to have a full digital gauge cluster and a smaller infotainment system with physical dials for the volume and tuning, and the haptic feedback buttons really aren't that bad. At least we have that in the Taos. My final verdict here, and this is probably not what a lot of you guys want to hear, especially since, I do these reviews and I'm usually fair and I try being very unbiased, but I do miss my Volkswagen Tiguan. I miss my Tiguan because with the MQB Evo platform, there's so much more refinement. It's not just the chassis, it's not just the suspension, it's the interior insulation, and it's also the fact that with this engine that we have here with the Taos, it's loud and it doesn't feel that great. There's vibrations that come into the cabin. You can definitely tell it's a smaller output engine, and that's really where I am not as enthusiastic about this vehicle, because I do think you're going to find better in this market and its price range. But if you are a fan of Volkswagen, like I am, or maybe I'm leaning towards I think you're going to like the Taos. You're going to like the Taos. I know people who have bought these as daily drivers and they love them. I know someone who has Ferraris and Porsches in their driveway, and they bought this as a daily driver to move cargo when they were moving from Massachusetts to Florida. And they love this vehicle. They loved it. And I see why. I fully understand why when you're taking a look at the price. But I think if you have enough time to cross shop with the rivals, that's where, in all honesty, you'll be happier with a Crosstrek and a Mazda CX-30, even though you're going to be sacrificing interior space and overall cargo capacity. So guys, I hope you enjoyed this video and review for the Volkswagen Taos SE. Let me know in the comment section below what you want to see out of this vehicle, because if nothing changes over the next few days or weeks, this will be my long-term loaner. And if you need to know anything about the Volkswagen Taos SE, I'm your man. But guys, once again, thanks so much for watching. Take care, and I'll see you guys next time.